Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Welcome to Adelaide.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. So you're a bit of a machine today. We had some office hours. I said, do you want some breaks? You're like, no, just hit them all. So what did you see, 14 startups? About that?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, it was around that. Any that stood out?
I think, having been to Adelaide a couple of times now, the quality of people is very, very high. I think, when people talk about startup ecosystems, it's kind of, they get focused on these total numbers of things, when really the total numbers isn't important. What matters is, are there people who are good, who are doing things? And that's the real metric. We talked before about, the question I get asked a lot is how many people apply to Startmate every year. And it's really not the metric that matters. The metric that matters is like 8 of those teams world-class or not. So I think I'm always constantly impressed by the percentage of kind of quality startups in Adelaide. So today was no different.
Awesome. So we start off going with a couple of standard questions, which is, what did your parents do?
My mother is a university lecturer that teaches primary school teachers the psychology aspects of teaching kids, and my dad is an English high school was an English high school teacher.
Interesting. So, what got you into being an entrepreneur? Like, what was your first little business, and how old were you?
My first business. So my mum had always worked at university, and so I had internet access from an incredibly young age. So this was probably like 1992, and I was about 13, 14 then. We had like, I remember it was a 14.4K modem, and it was $2,000, so it was like a huge purchase that, I didn't come from a very wealthy family, teachers, but I was just obsessed with computers. I'd come home from school and I'd spend probably the whole sort of afternoon and night on the computer. And then originally, so got a modem. BBSs were big back then. You would dial in and chat with people and so on. And then the internet came to the University of Newcastle, where originally I'm from, and ESPN was one of the first websites back then. And so what I would do is I'd sell printouts of NBA games, the box scores I'd print out. So people would subscribe to a team for $5 a week. And what I'd do is I'd download all the games for that week, box scores, and print it out. Back then, you couldn't find out about NBA games even on the TV. It wasn't that popular back then, but there were people who were interested. So don't think I made a lot of money, and taking into account the printer and the even the paper on that operational basis probably wasn't that profitable, and taking into account the $2,000 modem, it definitely wasn't profitable. But I think that's probably, I was just more obsessed with computers and computer games than I was, I guess, entrepreneurial pursuits from a young age, but I guess that would probably be the first example.
Yeah. That was the question that came up today, is Niki a coder, or what's he do?
Yeah, I was. I used to program at university. I did this course that was sort of half computer science and half commerce.
Yep.
So I can code. I haven't coded for a while, and in the startups I've done, the most recent one, I didn't code at all and haven't coded in a while. But I guess coming from that technical product background, I think the best way to describe myself would be a product person.
Yeah. So going from school, did you finish you went through year 12 to uni, finish your degree?
Sort of, yes, in the end. The choice on a university degree, in this degree, which was at UNSW in Sydney, it's called BIT. This is the half computer science, half commerce degree. And really I just remember how silly it was. Like in year 12, it was, what's a university course that would pay me to go to university? So I looked at all these things that had to do with computers, and there were these things called co-op scholarships. I thought, that's cool. They pay you $200 a week to go to university. I should, apply to that. That was literally the guiding principle for applying, and ended up getting in. It was, it's a very, I think there was like 800 people who apply and 40 get it. And what you basically sign up, and actually the financial deal isn't that great either, because the course is 4 years. You do 18 months of work experience with all of these corporate partners. So these large companies like PwC and Macquarie Bank were the two work experience periods that I ended up doing. And you realize that when you are working full time in those 18 months of the 4 years, you're getting paid $5 an hour. So that was the degree. I don't think I learnt sort of anything at university content-wise, but it just turned out to be this really ultra entrepreneurial group of people. So the first company I founded, and the funny answer to the did you finish university question, was with Mike Cannon-Brooks, who founded Atlassian. The company we founded was dramatically less successful than Atlassian. But we were 18 years old, first year uni, and roommates, and we founded a company called the Bookmark Box, which was an online application to manage and share your bookmarks online. This was 1998, and we sort of paused university. We did it on night, so we switched to part-time. So we kind of say we dropped out, but we didn't really drop out. We just switched to part-time while we did the startup, and we did a couple of university subjects. So I did finish university. It took longer. I think it was like a 5-year journey for a 3-year degree, but eventually got there and got a university degree.
So you just worked out how to hustle and get both things. Do you find that your university degree actually helped you with, because did you have any full-time work after uni?
So all through uni, so I was doing this startup, and then after we sold that startup, helped a US company, Jupiter Research, which is a research and advisory company that was sort of very popular back in the first wave of the internet boom, set up their Australian operations. So even then, we were doing uni at night while we're working for this company in the sort of latter years. But yeah, so uni was useful in that these 40 people, so Scott Farquhar, who's the other co-founder of Atlassian, did the same course. There were probably another 5 or 6 people that ended up doing startups in some way very successfully. So the course, which had nothing to do with entrepreneurship, ended up producing all of these great startup people. So that's the fascinating thing about university for me, is the people I got to meet, but probably not the content I got to learn. Yeah.
So after the bookmark business that you sold, you went and did this sort of your consulting, and then you went into another business.
Yep. So the story was, so the Bookmark Box, we raised 30 grand from my uncle and Mike's dad and my uncle's friend. We built it up to 50,000 users, which back in 1998, not a lot of people were using the internet, was actually a significant figure, and 8 million bookmarks, so people were using it quite religiously. And then at that time, 1999, it was, say, January 1999, 3 companies in the US all raised this huge kind of $20 million Series A round. So they were pre-product, just raising 20 mil on the back of a PowerPoint deck. And actually, even more random is that one of them was Elon Musk's brother, who was doing a bookmark company back in 1999. And so we thought, we're 2 18-year-old kids and we're like screwed. So we thought, well, we should sell to them because clearly they're going to win. And then we spoke to them, and one of them ended up buying us, successful for everyone involved, but not life-changing. So they bought us to boost their launch. And then through that, because the company that did buy us, which was Blink.com, was based in New York. And then we came across another guy sort of through all of this process of selling the Bookmark Box, who had bought out this company, Jupiter Research. And that's how we got talking to him. He said, would you like to help sort of set up the operations in Australia? We produced a few conferences and events and research. So primarily it was sort of media technology companies that paid 40 or 50 grand a year for this steady sort of flow of research reports, of consumer surveys and strategy sort of advice. So that was for a couple of years. The company was based in New York, so I'd always wanted to live in New York. And then after a couple of years in Sydney, moved over to the headquarters of Jupiter Research, which is in New York. Then after about 6 to 12 months, left to start Homethinking, which is my second startup. It's an online real estate business that helps homeowners find a real estate agent to sell their home with. So the way we do it is we monitor all of the real estate activity in the US, so which agent has sold which home for what price, and we rank the agents kind of quantitatively based upon, so if you've sold the most homes to the best prices, you'll come up first, and so on. And that was in 2006. That business still operates, again, successful, but on a small scale. And I think, one of the kind of guiding principles for me now is you want to have this beer rule. So the beer rule is you would enjoy having a drink with your customers. And with Homethinking, I loved making decisions in this data-driven way. I loved real estate, but I just didn't like real estate agents. And it didn't prevent it from being successful, but it really sort of woke me up to, people talk about success and failure in these binary kind of ways. You're either a failure or you're a success. And in the world, usually there's a million shades of grey in between failure and success. And it just didn't feel like, I'm kind of a more morbid person in that you only have X number of years on the world, on this globe. So you should make the most of it. And I wasn't making enough impact that was personally satisfying to me. So took a year off. We lived with my now wife, Paris and the countryside of Italy for a year. Moved back to Australia and thought, okay, I'm going to start a software company that I really enjoy spending time with the customers. And it was around sort of this data-driven marketing, this very metrics-driven sort of instrumenting a product, and the product really was a salesperson. And so if you could improve the product and change it up and see improvements in conversion, then that's how these new businesses were being built. And also wanted to start angel investing. So Homethinking was enough of a success that was, it just wasn't like, every dollar of revenue that we added, I just wasn't going to add it back into the business. So it was just turned into a different mode of automation and not spending any additional cost into the business. And every additional dollar of cash flow I'd use to help me start this other company and help me begin angel investing. And that's we also moved back to Sydney. It was nothing to do with my grand plan of, I think Australia is like an awesome startup underserved market. It was just wanted to get married and have kids, so that's why we moved back to Sydney. But all throughout that, I was very close to Mike and Scott's journey at Atlassian, all every step of the way, and how they built that business. I'd kept in touch with a number of different people who were building these great companies, and so that's what I'd fallen in love with. And that's initially what was the investment thesis was. Australia has these awesome founders who are world class, that are building these global internet companies from Australia, that are very different in that they don't sell to some important person at some big company and over 12 to 18 months and have steak dinners and play golf and sign $200,000 sales. It was these nerdy software founders who create awesome products that are really delightful for customers, and they download them or use them free for 30 days and then pay $100 a month at the end of it. Like, that was kind of what I believed in, not the former. And that was really the only kind of compass, like not I believe in this market or that market. So started doing that, and then realized that I had some money, I don't have a lot of money, that I could make an even greater impact if I had this circle of founders, and it would be more useful to the entrepreneurs that I would invest in if we had this network of founders, and that was the initial sort of impetus for Startmate, and then more recently Blackbird.
Yep. So with Startmate, you find that the mentors, because there's all these accelerators and incubators and stuff around the world, you find that it's the mentors that really make the accelerator?
Yep. And the other thing is, there's another couple of things that were really important to me were, through doing all of those companies, what was really useful to me was talking to other people that had been through this mess of creating a startup, who knew that it wasn't like a simple kind of neat trajectory upwards that it unfolds and you forecast it out for 5 years and you hit your plan. Like, it's not The world doesn't work like that. And the only people that really seemed to understand that were people who'd done startups before. They had that empathy for how messy it was. So it was like very, very important that every mentor at Startmate was a founder themselves. So it was founders helping other founders. So it wasn't just mentors. And there are valuable people in the world that work at large companies and large technology companies and people who want to be helpful and so on. But it was so important for me just to say it's just founders and that's
just
it.
For that early stage.
And so Startmate is, founders helping other founders. The other thing is like, they have to be engaged. So it's not just enough to have, Mike Cannon-Brooks' name on the website or some big name on the website. It has to be, they actually care about and they contribute and they're active and they're engaged and they put up their own money. So that's another difference. With Startmate, some people say it's a bad thing. I think it's like a really good thing that they're investing both their money and their time, not just their time. So they're not just a name on the website, they feel part of it. Yeah. So yes, the mentors are the value of the accelerator, but only in the beginning years, because I think probably Startmate is at this tipping point now where, so we've invested in 29 startups so far. It's actually those 29 startups, the founders of those companies, that are most valuable to the future founders of Startmate companies. So the network is both this network of mentors and then these network of alumni companies. And I think, over time, we're probably at that tipping point now. The alumni companies are actually more valuable than the mentor network.
Because they've been through your start,
Yeah, but it's also like, they're so close. Like, again, so you can talk to a really successful person and they're like, oh, it's really hard to hire 200 developers in Sydney at the moment. And you're like, okay, that sounds like a great problem to have. You're much more empathetic to, you might be raising a seed round. The best person to speak to is actually someone who's just raised a seed round. Like if you ask sort of this large, this founder of this extremely successful company, give me some advice on raising a seed round. Like they have no idea. They raised a seed round in 2003 or, it's like, how did you grow up in the 60s? It's not really relevant to today. So I think, both, they're much closer to that sort of point, that the relevant problems of that person. And then also I think going through Startmate, they're a lot more bonded to the experience. Like it's just I'm fascinated that, you make friends at high school, you make friends at university, but then you might make some friends at work, but there's no real other make friends wave of time in people's lives. And with Startmate, it was just amazing. It was that time for, so many people, for even me. I make friends every year through the companies that pass through Startmate, but the shared experience of all the 8 companies each year, it's another wave of sort of time where the companies make great friends.
And they're sort of all on the same level as well, because they're all trying to help each other out.
Yes,
become successful instead of...
and it's like, also these people are so ultra competitive. Like it's not like they compete against each other in any way. They could be,
they
completely different things. But it's like if they see someone else making progress or they see someone else making a sale, it's like, shit, you better keep up.
Yeah.
Like you better. So I think even just that shared kind of room of really smart, ultra competitive people forces people to make more progress as well. I think the artificial deadline, this kind of 3-month period, why is it 3 months? Just because it's a short period of time, and you just kind of, it's just this beauty of this artificial deadline that helps force people to make lots of progress.
It makes them more hungry.
Yep.
They have to have something done by a certain time.
Yep.
So how does it work with the actual approval process? Because I heard the mentors all sit around and basically score each application.
Yep. So last year we got about 240 applications, and then the 25 mentors all vote. So they vote for their top 8. There's like this big scoreboard, and then we'll narrow it down to about 20-ish companies, and we invite those 20-ish companies along to a full round final interview day. So the final interview day is a whole day of like the meetings I had today, which is like 15 minutes of just bang, 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 and rotate all around. And then the mentors then vote again, and whoever's the first 8 in the scoreboard get the offer, and then usually start the program.
So you don't ever get to like a tie? Has there been any crazy arguments over the top 8?
Yeah, we do. The other thing is, like, I think Startmate, has proven itself. That 8 is really just it's like a sort of notional value that can be higher or lower. We'd love to make it higher. I feel like the depth of, again, that metric of 8 world-class teams, that's what we really care about. And if there's 10 or 12 world-class teams, then we'd probably go as high as that. To date, that hasn't been the case, but there's no reason why it can't be in the future.
So in the application process, what are you really looking for from, if there's anyone here today, how do they stand out? Like give me 3 tips of what they can do to really stand out.
Yep. I'll give you 2. I call it like the 2 shits team, which is why do you give a shit? And then can you get shit done? So people say we like to invest in great management teams in large problems and blah, 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 blah. But what is a great management team? And so that's really what you're focusing on in this very early stage, because you just don't know about the market, you just don't know about the product. Usually there isn't a product in some cases. So what makes a great management team? And to me, it's like the first is, maybe also to make it clear that it's the connection between the founder and the problem. Like that why. Like why do they care about that customer? Why are they empathetic to their problems? Like why do they have a unique insight into the particular problem? So why do they give a shit? Like why do they really care? That kind of the opposite case for Homethinking was I didn't enjoy selling to real estate agents, so I shouldn't have been doing it.
Like it made you money, but that only takes you so far.
Yep. And then the second is, can you get shit done? Like so many people have great ideas. The great ideas is never the shortage. The shortage is the conversion from people talking about something to people doing something. Like it's just this mental kind of barrier in people's minds that they just can't start. So we don't have enough money, Adelaide's not a great startup community, there's no funding, the government should do more, if I just had a technical co-founder, I need, it's just all these mental barriers that they don't realize that are just mental, not actual. And so, you're looking for the person who just does it. They don't complain, they don't sort of think about these big picture issues. They just think about the customer, the problem, and they just go and do it. And they just don't complain about money. They don't complain about how chaotic the environment is. They don't complain about how much uncertainty there is at every stage in the early stages. They don't complain about all of these things. So they just go and do it. They just take the initiative and
this
do
laser
it.
focus for 3 months.
Or even just
right now
in life in general.
Yeah.
It's just like they do. And to me, startups are just about doing, like entrepreneurship. You can kind of study at university, and like it's always this irony that they have. And hope that luckily it's changing now. Is like these business plan competitions. You just get people who can write good business plans. Doesn't mean they can create businesses. Like you just have to go and do it. Like that's the real fascinatingly large kind of drop off.
What's your thoughts on business plans now?
I think
do you think companies ever need them?
No, not in the early stages, because it's just you just, again, like real evidence of offering something to someone and them saying yes or no to it. That's kind of more important to have that learning than it is to have a well-researched business plan that is just not going to stand up to reality as soon as you do it anyway. So yes, planning is a valuable function. Planning is absolutely part of any kind of business thinking and so on over time. It's always important to write down your thoughts and write down your assumptions and your guesses. And I think the lean canvas is a much better representation of a business plan than a business plan. So planning is ultra valuable, but again, like the most important thing is just to offer something to someone to see if it solves their problem or not.
Yeah. So in terms of if I looked at your LinkedIn profile, is there any jobs or any businesses that you haven't listed there that you've founded that you've fucked up so bad on that you don't want the rest of the world to know about?
No, the other thing is like even like failures, like it's just so hard to describe it as a binary failure or success. I've tried lots of so the idea of when I moved back to Australia, I was starting another company. It was all about this marketplace for conversion rate experts, so people who could help out with sort of the language, the copywriting, the design of very important pages like the shopping checkout page or the user registration page or whatever sort of lead generation form. So this marketplace of people was like A/B testing software. It didn't work out, but it was something that I was passionate about, and it was sort of didn't really not work out. It had revenue and customers, and it was just that I fell in love with investing. The other thing with the path that was unexpected with Startmate was it was only ever a 2-day-a-week kind of thing for me. But when I did it, it was just like, this is what I should be doing in life. This is what I really, really enjoy. This is like off the charts kind of happiness of
That's where you found your value
really
at the
satisfying.
time.
Yeah.
Yep.
To me personally, so it was like, let's just do that. And so the other thing is a failure, but I'm sure if I dug deep enough and went sort of far enough and didn't have the Startmate, then it would have turned into something.
Different. Yeah. Do you have any moment that you sort of play the what if game of what if only I did it differently in this one particular time in business?
I don't know. I'm not very kind of what ify, and looking back in life, it just you just go and kind of do it. So I don't really have any regrets or anything like that.
No companies that you missed out on investing in?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to invest in Atlassian in the early days, which didn't happen. But again, like, failure is all part of it. Like, Michael Jordan missed more shots than he made. Even, with the clock running down, he missed a whole heap more shots than he made. But you have to take the shot. Like, that's the, I think, lesson in life. You have to expose yourself to being lucky, and the more times you kind of have the chance to be lucky, a minority of those chances will turn out to be true. But I think people think, oh, that person is lucky or not. Again, like, it's like a static kind of variable of a person, but it's actually a process. So you just have to go and try and do things and be open to things. Like, we've invested in 29 companies at Startmate. Nearly all of them will fail. Every year we invest in 8 companies. By the end of the 5 months, I think 4 of them will be already kind of dead. So it's just so what, that's.
Have you had any that have, for the last year, you had a couple that sort of didn't take off at all after the 3 months?
Yeah, every year we'll have that. Usually what happens is, so with the 8 companies, about 4 raise a seed round of about $1 million each, and of those other 4, usually they'll sort of pack it up shortly thereafter. Even of the 4 that raise money, so of the 8 companies, I think 40% will have a founder leave the team within a year. So it's like a mess, like it's a total mess. But sort of this, who are the teams that will make it through? That's the really fascinating psychological kind of story that I love to try and work out. I don't think I have worked out.
You don't have a scorecard on the side. You're like, yeah, I knew that one was going to go.
I have a theory of why teams sort of stick together, and the way they came together is kind of predictive of whether they will stick together or not. But if you look at really great success stories like Facebook and Twitter, they all had founders leave within the first few years. Like, these extreme kind of examples of success, and they still had founders leave. My working theory is, if you come together just to do a startup, it's kind of like meeting your wife at the pokies in Las Vegas. It might work out, but chances are it's not going to work out. If you have worked with someone at a larger company, then it's still a pretty weak tie, because at a large company you're not responsible for doing something. You're not responsible. If you didn't do anything for months, you probably still would survive.
Yeah.
There's no requirement for initiative. There's no fear of death. There's no kind of reward for success. There's penalty for failure kind of mode. So when people have been operating in this sort of environment of comfort, it's a very big change when they do a startup together. Yep. So again, you just don't know. If someone has done a consulting company together before, that's a better thing, because consulting, you have to actually go and get clients, you have to deliver a good service, you have to collect money at the end. So it's like this basic kind of building blocks of a businessman or woman. And then have you done a failed startup together? That's pretty good. So if you've actually gone through a startup and failed,
And still
it's a
together.
pretty good test. But actually the best predictor, and this is, again, I've very limited sample size of observations, is actually childhood friends. Like I think childhood friends as founders have been sort of like a really, really strong predictor from startups that I've been involved in, I have seen, as to who will stick around and who will work really well together.
Yep. So you said you made you came back and you were getting into angel investment. Like what made you interested in actually doing the investment? Like how did you get your first taste in that? Did you see someone else doing it?
Yeah, I'd always loved Warren Buffett, so read all his, the biographies of him and all of his annual letters. I'd read a lot of, so his partner Charlie Munger has like lots of awesome writings on investment in general. Lots of hedge fund managers publish their sort of thoughts on the world, and I just got addicted to this kind of way of trying to represent the world and how it works, and learning about that. And one of the big things out of all of it is, in investing, like this kind of, there's this, 2x2 matrix, which is you believe something that everyone else believes and you're right, you actually don't make money. If you believe in something that no one else believes in and you're right, that's when you really, really make money. And obviously if you don't believe in something and that thing is wrong, you don't lose money. If you believe in something that turns out to be wrong, you lose money. So it was really in that square, like, what do you believe that no one else believes? Peter Thiel is like sort of the best at describing this kind of principle. And in Australia, and this was back 5 years ago, so it's changed dramatically, but still I think valid, is people don't think that technology startups are a great investment. Like if you look at Atlassian is a $3.3 billion company, Campaign Monitor, $600 to $700 million company, BigCommerce, similar. Envato would probably be near $1 billion company. Retail Me Not is now publicly listed, $1.4 billion company. Redbubble, Freelancer, $400 million company. So example after example, and you look at all of these companies and they had raised zero seed money, they raised zero Series A money. So you had all these wonderful, wonderful companies that were started in Australia that would have made any investor's fund of like these large VC funds that haven't done well in Australia. They would have like just returned the fund many times over, and they would have been a great success. And like they weren't interested, or they didn't manage to invest in these huge, like this group of companies. And so it was clear that also investing in technology companies in Australia was about finding these deep IP projects, spinning out of university research and commercializing something. That was sort of the trusted model for venture capital in Australia. And I didn't believe in any of that, but I believed in the Atlassian, Campaign Monitor, Envato, Halfbrick Studios, which is a mobile games company in Brisbane. And it was like, no one else believed it. And also, you speak to any investor and they're like, we love to invest in, proven entrepreneurs with proven ideas. And these sort of management teams with 20 years experience each and so on. I was like, well, I don't believe that either. I believe, like the tagline of Startmate is helping nerds become great CEOs. That's what we love to invest in, like people with zero business experience who look like a joke. That describes every sort of beginning of all of those success stories. It describes the beginning of Google, Facebook, Oracle, Microsoft, all these wonderful Apple technology companies. If you just looked at the founder at the beginning of the journey, and they look like no experience, like hardly any of them even finished university. So why are people paying attention to all of these other variables that in looking at all the world's biggest success stories, there was none of? So that's kind of what contributed to me going, well, like it's so puzzling that no one has realized this. And so that usually means it's a great time to invest. And also, in terms of the market, it was very sad. It still probably is quite sad. In terms of the number of investors should be much higher in Australia, but that's actually a really good time to invest. You don't want to invest when everyone thinks it's an awesome idea because you won't make any money. So it was all of those things that made me more confident that Startmate and Blackbird and all the other things would be a success.
Yeah. So how did you get to Blackbird then? Because you have like
Yep.
Startmate, so Startmate's taking up how much of your time at the moment? Like when you run the program?
Yeah, so Startmate, the applications close next month, September 30, so all apply.
Who's thinking about applying here? Come on, give me a hand.
Hopefully by the end of the
There
month.
we go.
So, by this application time, it's a very busy time selecting the companies. During the program, I work 2 days a week out of the office space at Startmate. There's a US trip that I spend a couple of weeks. That's another sort of full-time period helping them hit the ground running in the US. So that's kind of, Startmate is now under the umbrella of Blackbird. But the idea of Blackbird was, through investing in 29 companies at Startmate, the round of funding that they were raising, so as I said, half of them raised about $1 million each. That round was still very hard, but was becoming easier. So a lot of the founders of those successful companies were angel investing. A lot more people were interested in angel investing in startups in Australia. So it was, you could see the problem was being fixed if it wasn't fixed already. But what was this other paradox was, once they'd raised this round, and the round usually was like they had some product and they had an initial amount of users, maybe some paying customers, and they'd raise a round, and then they'd actually build out the team. They make a ton of progress over 12 or 18 months. They just start to realize these group of customers are the best customers. Like, they sign up within days, they pay us way more, they upgrade, they don't churn. And here's lots of ways in which we can reach, more of them. And that round, the $2 to $4 million small Series A, this paradox of like they got there, and that round was harder to raise than the $1 million seed round. So the seed round is usually, high net worth individuals, rich founders of technology companies who invest 50 or 100K at a time, other folks. So that's the audience of people that you convince at the seed stage. At the $2 to $4 million stage, you have these group of Australian venture funds that haven't done so well, and so they've run out of money, they don't have any more money, and probably won't raise new funds. You could try the US, but at that Series A stage, they probably want you to move to Silicon Valley. If you have a company that's doing like $5 or $10 million a year in revenue and doubling or tripling, then you can actually raise money from Silicon Valley so easily if you're in that situation. So if you're raising 15, 20, Atlassian, 60, Campaign Monitor, 250 million, if you're raising these big amounts of money, it's actually a really efficient global market for funding. Like, those guys actually fly out to Australia to actively visit those types of companies. But between sort of $1 and $10 million, that was where it was really kind of radio silence, black spot. So the idea of Blackbird was to take these two ideas that had worked at Startmate, which is founders helping other founders, this bridge to the US, so helping Australians compete on a global stage, and bring it to the small Series A round. And so we got Blackbird up and running in February of last year. It's a group of mainly technology founders, so about 70% of our investors are technology founders who are putting up their own money, but also their own time to help out this next generation of startups. And we can't service the $5 to $10 million round. It's that sort of earlier round. So we'd love to. I think the vision for Blackbird is to be useful to a particular type of person at any stage of their life. So at Startmate, it's 2 or 3 people with an idea. And all the way through to hundreds of millions of dollars invested. But I'd rather sort of fix the variable on these kind of technical founders or nerds becoming great CEOs, building great sort of product-centric companies, a global sort of the best in the world rather than just the best in Australia, like those sort of attributes, and then be useful to that sort of person at any stage of their life.
So is there any particular type of tech business that Blackbird looks to invest in? Like, we have some VCs that just want like real business, like software as a service, like B2B stuff.
We love. I'd say software as a service is the bread and butter, but so enterprise software that's sold in a bottom-up way. So what I mean by that, in the comments earlier, were when you sell your product to the worker rather than to a central department like the CIO, like Bugheard, like Atlassian, like Campaign Monitor sells to small businesses. BigCommerce sells to small businesses. So products that sell to the actual person who uses the software. So you think about enterprise software, and one reason it is really, really crappy is that some person makes a decision at a high up level in a centralized way, and the actual people who have to use the software every day aren't given a choice. So, you know, we love enterprise software, and I'd say it's probably half of our, will be half of our investments. But enterprise software that's sold in a bottom-up way, and also mobile enterprise software. So I think like there's all these industries where all these workers didn't have a computer in front of them during the day. So, you know, an example is an Adelaide company that we invested in through Startmate, Happy Inspector, which does property management software for the iPad. So each real estate investment trust, each owner of lots and lots of properties has to do inspections on a periodic basis to make sure that, you know, the apartments or the houses or the whatever in just sort of fit condition and they don't need anything fixing. And so this incredibly manual process, which was done on paper previously, now these workers have computing devices, which are iPads or Android or iOS devices, now part of their day. So these previous kind of industries that could be described as construction, mining, all of these industries where there was like these computing black spots where computers didn't exist during the day, where they now exist because of mobile devices. That's probably, you know, like a really favorite trend as well. Global marketplaces. So we love marketplaces where both sides of the marketplace can be anywhere in the world. So think, you know, freelancer.com, 99 Designs, Envato. We've invested in Bugcrowd, which is a marketplace of security hackers financial service providers open up their platform. All of the sort of hackers go through this proxy service so that the traffic can be audited, and they try to uncover security vulnerabilities, and if they do, they get rewarded with cash and these reputation points. So it's like a global marketplace.
Was that last year's one?
Yes, that's right. Yep. And that's different from local marketplaces. So local marketplaces are like Gumtree or Craigslist or REA or Car Sales or Seek, these sort of marketplaces that it really matters where there's local critical mass. That's not so much Blackbird. And then, you know, consumer services. So we've invested in Shoes of Prey, which is a women's shoes business. I would never ever have said in a million years that I would be an investor in a women's shoes business, but it's really, you know, all about the team and the people and what unique insight they have and the passion for the problem and all those things I was talking about earlier. Like, you make decisions based upon that, and it just turns out that they tend to fall into these buckets of interest.
Yeah. So, what's the best way for a startup that's looking for 2 to 5 mil to get in contact with Blackbird?
Is the very best way is just to create a really awesome product that customers love and pay for, and you do that, and hopefully we'll find you. If you want an intro, the best way, I think, and this is not just a me personal intro, but this is like becoming a better founder, which is, if you're raising a round, you should speak to all of the other companies that have raised a similar round. And so if you see someone, and they all announce it in the press, so you see X company raise $1 million and you're trying to raise $1 million. Like, just by emailing the founders, even at the contact address of those companies' pages, and say, hey, here's my situation, would love to catch up for a coffee, or if they're not in the city then that you're living in, you can just do a Skype chat or something like that, and just say, we'd love to get your thoughts and experiences on how the fundraising round was for you, and so on. So you line up the coffee or the Skype chat, and like, they're incredibly honest. Like, you really learn how fundraising works. They'll be like, this guy's a tire kicker, and that guy was an idiot, and this guy was, you know, totally unexpected, invested 500K. So like, you just learn the real kind of knowledge that you won't learn from even people like me. And then, you know, if that conversation goes well, then that founder would be happy to intro you to some investors and so on. So if you get an intro from that founder to an investor and, you know, I guess to Blackbird, that's the best way to do it. The sort of, you know, priority list would be founders we know, yes, founders we've invested in would be sort of a level higher, I would say. So if we've invested in a company, that network of introductions is really good. Yeah. We get a bunch of really good introductions from our own investors. So the idea of Blackbird is this network of founders helping other founders. And usually, like, if you're a startup and you want advice, you'll know the people that have succeeded. Again, catch up for a coffee. I think Stuart is here tonight. He's referred a bunch of businesses that have been interesting. So the network of founders we've invested in, and in Blackbird's case, which is fairly unique, the investors of Blackbird are actually founders of these companies as well. So they're the two best.
Other networks as well. So how do you find like the startup spaces now? So like Sydney versus Adelaide versus Melbourne?
I would say Sydney and Melbourne are nearly exactly the same. So again, like I know people try to make it like some, huge battle, but in my experience it's been roughly the same. Even we've invested in, I think, one or two more Melbourne companies. So, maybe Melbourne slightly has a higher density. And then at Blackbird, we've invested in one company in Adelaide, which was Nick Crocker and Sessions, that was acquired by MyFitnessPal. We've invested in Safety Culture in Townsville. We're just about to invest in a company in Brisbane. And a couple of the companies we've invested in have relocated to San Francisco. So that's roughly the split of investing at Blackbird. Startmate, we've invested in Happy Inspector in Adelaide. So I'd say it seems like Sydney and Melbourne probably have critical mass in startup ecosystems, like not anywhere near Silicon Valley and probably not anywhere near New York and London, but probably somewhere near Austin or Seattle or Boulder or something like that. And then Adelaide, probably be bigger than any other non-Sydney and Melbourne. Maybe Adelaide and Brisbane will be roughly on par, and behind that would be Perth and then everywhere else.
Okay. Do you see that startups should have to move to the Valley if they're in tech? Or do you think that we have enough now that we can stay in Australia?
Yeah, I actually think it doesn't matter. Like, it's just like this mental barrier for people doing rather than talking about doing, is that location has this huge impact either way. In my experience, it doesn't. Like, it's just 90% the person or the founders involved in the business, not any other external kind of factor. Silicon Valley versus Australia. Yes, Silicon Valley will give you more chance of raising money. If you do raise money, though, it will be so much harder to hire good people for anywhere near sort of reasonable cost. And once they do join you, then they'll leave within 6 months. And if you live in California, it has the highest kind of state taxes, and there's all this overhead you have to pay for all your employee healthcare, and healthcare in the US is a nightmare. And it's always good and bad. Yeah. There's always like this good and bad stuff. I think if you look at also the successful Australian startups and what they've done, there's not a choice. There's not like Australia or the US. It's always Australia and the US, and just taking advantage of what we have and what they have. And I think what we have is this great kind of pool of people that you can recruit that will do awesome work, that will stick around. If you're unprofitable and you're small, you get the R&D tax grant, which makes it really cheap to hire developers in Australia. I think Silicon Valley has obviously a way better financing ecosystem. Also think it has a higher density of people that have built small companies into big companies, so that kind of operator, biz dev, marketing, operations kind of person you're much more likely to be able to find someone like that in Silicon Valley than you are in Australia. But it's always like pros and cons. Grass is always greener on the other side. In the end, I think it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Have you found that like the Australians' attitude towards like tall poppy syndrome is starting to go away? Or have you ever experienced that?
I don't even think I've ever experienced it, yeah. And the other thing is, like, in the US, it's not like it's, they say they celebrate failure and whatever. I think it's like, they say that to your face, but like behind your back, they definitely don't talk like that. It's always amazing. Like, California in general is this place of very happy people, and like, if you ever want to like feel good about getting told no, like, go to California. It's like this amazing experience of like, you walk out like, yes, that was such a, well, wait a minute, they told me no. Like, it's like this very friendly exterior, but all of the people that I know in Silicon Valley are internally so rabidly competitive, so kind of this animal instinct about them. So I think everyone's just the same as everyone else anywhere in the world. I'd say that even in Australia and America, like the cultures are so similar.
Similar, yeah. I think we're going to open it up to some questions from the audience.
Cool.
Our first 3 favorite places in San Francisco for coffee, if you're going to go there.
I would say my favorite probably would be Sightglass. My second favorite would be Blue Bottle Coffee. There's like the flagship store in Mint Plaza. And then, not because of the coffee, but I think like because it's a cool kind of famous location, you have to go to the Creamery, which is like this diner type stuff that's very famous for tech startup meetings. That's right near sort of the baseball park.
Yeah. And last question for me is, what's the weirdest place you've ever been pitched?
It's always weird to get pitched in the toilet. Like it's just like a private moment. Like you just like really you can't wait until you. I think that would probably be the weirdest. Yeah.
How many times has that happened?
Only once or twice. I think it wasn't
okay.
there.
So if anyone has a question, raise your hands and we'll move around the room. It's always good when that happens.
Niki, what motivates you?
I think it's like the scale of the impact that you're making, and really that journey of learning. Like I think you can't sort of say if I get to X point I'll be happy. You have to kind of be happy in the process of getting to X point, if that makes sense. So I think what motivates me is like, I think why I became an investor, I like all this kind of investing stuff, not from the metrics financial point of view, I like that too, but I think investing is such a like an interesting emotional journey. Like people always have too much ADD, people always think too short term, there's no patience, there's no conviction, there's no instinct to be sort of contrarian. Like it feels better like when you think what other people think. So it's like investing, you're not rewarded for that, you're actually rewarded for the opposite. And then also, you know, like a stock price will go down by half and your immediate instinct is to sell. Like why is that? Like in the world, like no other place in the world does that happen. Like if something like a jacket you were going to buy goes down by half, what would you do? You're like, yes. But that doesn't happen in investing. Like that's a fascinating psychological dynamic that I really enjoy. I think what motivates me is just working with great people. Like I think happiness again in the workplace is all tied to the people you get to meet. And if you think of investing as this job that one of the only jobs in the world where you get to choose the people you get to work with. So usually when you go to a job, the people around you or above you will choose who's on your team. Even in a startup, as you're scaling up and you're hiring hundreds and hundreds of people, it's inevitable that you won't get to hire someone that you really like, someone that you don't really like, you probably get through. And so investing, which is this very kind of handmade artisan business, you invest in, you know, a small amount of companies per year, like you really get to choose to work with a small number of relationships with these high quality people. I think that's what motivates me more than anything else. And then I think you're also, like if you remove your ego from everything, you always are rewarded in life. So if you want to take credit or if you want to have your name over something, you're actually restricting the impact you can make. So like if you remove yourself, you don't care if you get recognized, you don't care, like you want to use that recognition as a motivating tool for others, then I think you can make such a bigger impact. And I think that's like very ingrained with the investor mentality, I think. So that's, you know, making as big an impact as possible. I think that's the cheesy but true answer.
Mm.
Okay. Nick, what have you learned from your failures?
Actually, you know, usually, again, I describe Startmate as helping you waste less time. So, you know, you just realize how much time you wasted on these things that just don't matter. That's what you learn from failures. And I think, thinking the opposite way, like I think it almost is a cliche that you learn more from your failures than anything else. And I think if you take the opposite view, you actually learn a lot from success, and then the success of what something that does work is usually, in my mind or my experience, you actually learn more from that. So I think even just the question of what do you learn from your failures, you actually do learn more from success than failure, in my opinion. But yes, usually it's you wasted your time on all of these things that don't matter. That's the example over and over again.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Niki, for your time there as well. Really appreciate the advice, and it came down, as you recall, predominantly to us just getting out there and launching. So the question, and I think part of the thing with a very complex app, so we better just do this, we better just do this. I mean, my question is, would you see if there's a time you possibly can get out there and create a bad name for yourself, which is hard to recover from, or is that something you just come out with a different brand in that case?
Yeah, so I actually have like
what's the mix there? Yeah.
Never is the answer. But so there's, in terms of like learning as quickly as you can and the benefits of giving yourself the opportunity to be lucky. So I'll give you a few, and I don't look upon this, like when someone says to me some of these things, I don't think they're a bad person. I just always think that they're at the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey, or they're sort of like they're on the L plates. Like the classic one is, I have this $1 trillion idea, but I need you to sign an NDA before I talk to you. Or, I can't tell you much about the idea because you might steal it. Or we need to get a patent before I tell you anything. So, it's in the same sort of, again, like the problem isn't that too many people care. The problem is no one cares at the moment. Like that's kind of what you have to think through. So when something is a complex thing, you actually should be embarrassed by that. You should it shouldn't be complex. It should be simple. If you've let it to be complex, you've waited way too long to launch. So if you do launch and no one likes it, it doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't. Like people. It's this mismatch of you care like 1 million whatever units of caring, and someone checks it out and they don't like it, but they have 1 unit of caring in terms of not liking it. So the mistake is to think that everybody cares as much about what you're doing as you do. Like again, that's the fallacy of the whole thing. People. It's not, and again, the 1 unit of caring, it's like come out with a new version and it might fix the problem that I'm really trying to solve, and I'd love to give it another shot. Like there's no, oh wow, like what a disappointment. Like I'll never ever use that software again. Like when have you ever in your life, sort of gone on that journey of using software and saying like a deep hatred for it? It never happens. It's like, okay, cool, it doesn't do it. Oh, cool, they launched with that feature that I really wanted. Okay, I'll give it another try. So there's absolutely no, repercussion. There's no downside. People are understanding. Early adopters, love that the software is actually embarrassing and that they can come along with the journey of shaping it with you. I think that's like one of the most amazing things about Kickstarter is like this community of people that just want to go along this journey with you of creating something. So, it's just a mistake not to do that.
Is it me?
Yep.
You described the environment in the teams after people raise funds, etc., as being really chaotic, and it's a mess. You said. Do you think it will always be that way, or do you think part of you trying to understand it is to advise people better or choose better?
I don't know, I just think it's hard, so it's always going to be a mess, and I think actually the function of mess is just growth rate. So if you're growing really, really fast, it's a mess. Like all of the stories I hear about like Dropbox or Twitter or Box.net, it's just like these companies are just a complete mess, and it's just a wonder that they keep growing. Like I think it's like if you grow really quickly, the wheels just want to fall off, and so unless you're growing really quickly, and you're only going to be a great company if you're growing really quickly. So it's actually a good sign that it's still messy. If it's all sort of neat and you have it under control, you're probably not driving the car fast enough.
Is that because the science hasn't been created around growing companies like that?
I think it's just the physics of like, growing really quickly. You have to make so many trade-offs. All of the information is uncertain. It's just life. Like, it's just going to make lots and lots of mistakes because you're growing so quickly. The founders breaking up thing, that is a fascinating question. I would say that every theory I've come up with, it just, haven't been able to have some breakthrough around will teams stay together or not. It's not to do with as I said, it's not to do with whether the company works out or it doesn't work out, because they actually leave in both scenarios. It's, something deeper that I haven't figured out.
Niki, at the heart of it, I am a huge advocate for investment in Australia, and I love Adelaide, and I'm really passionate about seeing entrepreneurs in Adelaide successful. And it got me thinking when you're talking about Blackbird, about how we can encourage more people to actually buy into, or I guess invest in startup capital ventures like Blackbird.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your ideas on how that can be stimulated?
The easiest answer is for us to make truckloads of money, and then we'll raise lots more money. That really is again, Blackbird is a startup in itself. We raised $26 million from 95 people. So it's like, I always tell people it's the biggest angel round ever raised in Australia. Those are the people that believed in us as people. There was some track record of the progress of Startmate companies and other personal angel investments that we'd made. But in terms of raising a VC fund, it wasn't anything, comprehensive that would, tick all the boxes of some institution investing, and no institutions invested in Blackbird so far. So, that can only happen once. The onus is on us to prove out that what we said we would do, we will do, that those companies are in Australia with this ambition and this quality of founder, that they can make progress in their companies and grow bigger and bigger, and you can sort of see that one or two of them will turn into these really, really big companies, and then we'll be able to raise much, much more money. So investing at any stage, it's like a startup. Like, I feel like Blackbird has raised its seed round. Maybe in a couple of years we'll raise a Series A round, which will be a bigger fund from more traditional investors as well as this group of founders. But at some stage it just has to be about the numbers. That's the only thing that will be sustainable and justifiable. The other thing that was really important to me at Startmate, even, these people invest, and the reason why they invest, the mentors, is the line that really was the line that got everybody to say yes was, do you wish something like this existed when you started? So it's a selfish reason. They see themselves 5 or 10 years ago, they're starting a company, yes, I would like, so they invest. But even their sort of continued involvement and their continued help is all predicated on these companies growing up and becoming bigger and better. And if that didn't happen, Startmate wouldn't be sustainable, and those people would lose interest and wouldn't invest. And so you have to have all of these ideas of why it's a good idea, and no one else believes it's a good idea. But in the end, you have to prove it. And if you prove it, then, the other thing with money is once you do prove it, you'll get way more money than you need, and that's when you screw it up again. So.
Niki, thanks. I'm really interested in your take on teams and motivation. A lot of people focus on teams more than, say, the original idea, because they change and morph and whatever. And looking at your home thinking, you mentioned even a negative attitude towards real estate agents, and so I'm thinking of your motivation for that project or that startup. Do you think there's a trend of emerging in startups as to why they're doing what they're doing that leads to success? Is it a positive motivation, a negative motivation? Is it just disruption?
Mm-hmm. I think it has to be for the right reasons. So that's the only predictable way to succeed. Maybe Rocket Internet is some example of some capital machine and, ex-McKinsey and MBA students, an army kind of approach to fighting a war of 1 million soldiers. But usually with technology startups, it really matters the connection between the founder and the problem. And it matters because it always goes wrong before it goes right. If you raise money, you'll run out of money. If you don't raise money, you'll always be out of money. And so no matter what, there's like this period, and usually it's like 1 to 2 years where you have to get through it. And the only reason you get through it is because you truly believe in the problem, you truly are empathetic to the customer, and you're doing this to solve like a problem in the world. You're not doing this to just be rich. It's one of the reasons you are rewarded in the end. But unless you do it for that, authentic reason, then it's so much harder to get through the initial 1 or 2 years, because any business that is trying to be big and in this beginning stage, it's like a mess. It never works in the beginning, and it's so hard. And so that's why I think it's the petrol that keeps you going through the first 1 or 2 years.
I've done quite a bit of consulting lately for small, medium and micro businesses, and one thing that's become really apparent is they're not using even the most basic features on their smartphones, and they see all of this technology, and a lot of these businesses are just completely scared by it. I just wonder, are there a lot of tech companies, in your opinion, missing a lot of business or a lot of opportunity because they're creating this whole solution? And could they maybe pick that up by going back and saying, look, this is what we do at the most basic level, why don't you take the first step? And once these massive number of businesses that we're dealing with, and multi-million-dollar businesses too, once they take that first step, maybe we'll see the second and the third. Well, I just wonder what's being left on the table and what money's being left on the table in your opinion.
Yep, I mean, I'm sort of more, I guess, an emotion of apathy, like of if people don't want to use technology, fine. The way this Darwinian process of capitalism, those who don't use technology, and that's not even small businesses, like I think a lot of large businesses, they'll die because they don't view technology as an advantage. They view it as some, maintenance cost of their business. And I think technology just gives you so much more leverage and allows you to charge so much less and deliver a greater service and so on and so forth. So the interesting thing for me, and sort of similar to that, is like the ambition of startups. So if you think of Uber as the best example in my mind, like if Uber was invented 10 or 15 years ago, they probably would have built this software and then try to sell it to taxi networks around the world. They'd try to sell it to other companies who are transport companies, like, we're a technology provider to. So they said no, their ambition was like 10 times larger than that. They wanted to be the biggest taxi network provider or the largest transport company in the world. And I think, that mind shift from we want to create software and then sell them to those industries to we want to create software and be the leaders in those industries. That is like really, really exciting from an investor point of view. And I think you're starting to see the same thing with Google, and Facebook's ambitions are just ever growing. And I think a lot of these companies are, they're ratcheting up their ambitions so much that, I feel like there will be a lot of roadkill. That's always been you look at the top 100 companies in the world over the last, 100 or 200 years, it's nothing new. It's actually surprisingly how perishable even large companies are. So I think it's up to them to do it. They don't want to do it, fine. That's my removed cold opinion.
How important do you think it is to have to have a team versus an individual?
So I say this with, Homethinking was a single founder. So it's either hypocritical or I've learned from my mistakes, but I always tell people that you should absolutely have a co-founder. You can't, like, this emotional journey of the ups and the downs of a startup is so damaging. Like, one day you think you're on top of the world, next day you're like, oh shit, we're fucked. So it's like this huge swings in emotion, and having other co-founders equalizes that. So, you might be on an up and they might be on a down, and you kind of, play off each other. And then also, it's so hard to do everything as a single founder. And so there's really two things that matter in a startup: the product and the customer. And usually if you have one person who's responsible for one component of that, that's the power of someone having responsibility over something in a single thing are more likely to get something done. If you have responsibility over two things, then if one thing's not working, if one thing's more difficult, you'll just naturally sort of retreat into whatever other thing is comfortable to you. So as a technology founder, if the customer stuff is too hard, you'll just go back and build more and more product stuff. If you're a business person, the technology stuff is more difficult, then you might just sell while ignoring that it's not the right product. So absolutely have a co-founder, and I sort of learned that through the hard way.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up. So everyone back to their feet.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming.